Hello, everybody. Welcome again to MercyGate Wednesday Nights. We're so glad that you're joining us wherever you're watching this right now. We're glad you tuned in. Over the past, several weeks, it's kind of been our summer teaching experience. We've been talking about a new chapter to your story. And it's been exploring strategies to release God's call and influence in your life. And you know, when we talk about things like that, we understand that God's call for us is influence. And his call for us is to lead. And whether or not you think of yourself as a leader, well, for the very fact that you've accepted Christ into your life, then that means you're called to influence and lead other people into an experience with him. So people are watching how we behave, how we handle life. But sometimes life gets hard and we get stuck, or some of us stop or we plateau, and our dreams and callings can kind of feel diminished because of the stuff of life. So what we've done, we took key strategies in how to unlock resources that will allow us to advance in our call and the things God has on our life. So we've been talking about those for the last, 5 or 6 weeks. And you can go back and look at those. I'd encourage you, if you haven't watched them, to go back and look at the previous Wednesday nights. But today's key strategy that we're going to be talking about is owning your happiness. And it's a powerful topic that we're going to talk about today. And the guest that I've brought with me this evening is Lindsey Hanley. And Lindsey is one of the two most happy people that I know. The other one is Lisa Hall, a former youth pastor's wife of ours, and she never had a bad day, it didn't seem like. Well, Lindsey drinks the same Kool-Aid. I mean, I've never been around Lindsey where she didn't exude joy and happiness. And I guess I just need to ask, have you always been that person?
Well, first, let me say thank you so much for allowing me just to join you up here. You know, you and I go all the way back to 2011. I know many people don't know that, but Pastor Brent was, my pastor, really my first pastor back in Port Neches whenever we first rededicated our life to Jesus. And so just to be up here with you today is just so cool.
Fun.
Yeah, it's so fun. And thank you for the kind words. But, I think I've always pretty much been an optimistic person. I've always tried to look, at the bright side of things. But if, to say that I was generally happy with them myself, I can't always say that I have been, because before my life with Jesus, I would search for happiness in whatever it may be, everything else other than Christ, whether it's materialistic things or relationships. I was always seeking for happiness in all the wrong places, and it ended up leaving me, void until I encountered Christ, and, he changed my life, so.
Well, it's fun because, when I met you, your mom and dad were coming to the church, and then you came, and I didn't know much about you, but, you and your husband, you were on a different path. You were on a different trajectory. He was an accountant, and I'm not sure exactly what you were doing back then.
Right.
Where were you working? Were you staying at home, living the good life?
Yeah, actually, I was a substitute teacher.
Okay.
If you remember,
yeah.
I was a substitute teacher for a while, which I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was doing at that time.
Well, then for us, then you guys started doing kids ministry.
Right.
But now you're a part of our staff here at MercyGate, and you're also one of our key youth leaders with Pastor Quentin and Pastor Aubie. You and Trent are almost, I guess, like assistant youth pastors, and that's been such a big shift from where you were going. And so the influence that you have and the way you carry yourself with happiness, joy, the optimism is a huge factor in discipling people and getting them to come along with you in your journey.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I have a scripture today that I would like us to launch from, and it's Philippians 4:4-9. And it says this, and this is the Apostle Paul. He's writing to a church, and he gives them this directive. And it's a directive. It's not a suggestion. And he says this. He goes, "Rejoice in the Lord always." not circumstantially, not when things are good,
Right.
but rejoice in the Lord always. Then he repeats it. He says, I will say it again, rejoice. So the repetitive nature of it that's emphasis for us. That means that this isn't just a suggestion. This is something that should take place, has to take place, because lives' eternity depends on rejoicing.
Right.
And it says, let your gentleness be evident to all, the Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. So thoughts matter.
Yes.
Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you.
I love that so much. And just referring back to Paul, and he says to rejoice. And you think about the life of Paul and just everything that he endured to advance the gospel. I mean, all the hardships that he faced, the difficulties, the persecution, but yet he still chose to rejoice. So, that's an encouragement for us that we can rejoice and that we have that hope that, if he can choose to rejoice, even in the midst of all that, then so can we, but it's in our choice to obtain that.
Well,
Joy.
too, in here when it says, when in making your requests known to God, how many times when we go to prayer, do we go to prayer and we think, God, life right now really sucks,
Yeah.
Or life is just so hard. I'm going through this right now, and God, would you please do this, 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 and this? I can't believe this is happening, and God, would you please, blah, blah, blah. But he gives us a model in how to present. He says, with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. In other words, okay, I need to look and come into this with some gratitude, with thanksgiving. I need to reflect what is happening that's good, and now let's go in and let's talk about the things I need.
Yes.
But there's a statement I heard once, and I've kind of tried to live from this statement. It says, you and I were created for joy, and if we miss it, we miss the reason for our existence.
Absolutely. Because God created us to be joyful and to live a life overflowing with joy. And as Christians, we're followers of Jesus and we love the Lord. We should be having that joy overflow in our life, every day. But there again, it's a choice and it's up to us to obtain it, to step into that. And to say, today I choose joy.
Yeah, we were created for joy.
Yes.
So we weren't created for misery. God did not create us to be miserable.
Right.
So, so if there's that in our life, we know that, okay, well, this wasn't God's design for me.
Right. So I don't have to live in that place.
But, Lindsey, Jesus even said, though, it's impossible that offense won't come.
Right.
Or in this life, you'll face trouble. Mm-hmm. So if he said those things, but then we know that his design for us was joy, how do we deal with that tension?
Yeah, I think it is too, like all in our perspective too. It's in our perspective and the way that we see things, so sometimes we have to ask the Lord, give me your perspective for this situation or what I'm walking through. Yeah. So it can be as simple as that.
Yeah. I was at Barnes & Noble one time. Do you like Barnes & Noble?
I do. I love Barnes & Noble.
Man, I can spend hours in a Barnes & Noble. And so I was in Barnes & Noble once, and I saw this book. I was just walking by. I remember walking by, and I'm just looking, and this title grabs my eye. And it says, you've got to keep dancing. And so I looked at the book, and I pulled it out. And it's by a guy named Tim Hansel. And it's about how he fell when climbing a glacier in the Sierras. And I sat down and started reading it a little bit. And it starts talking about how he fractured his vertebrae, he crushed discs and some fragments of bone in his neck. And ever since that fall, he's lived with constant chronic pain. And so in the book, he talks about how in the midst of chronic pain or chronic misery, there's a dignity. Mm-hmm. And that in that, he says this about pain and joy. He says, pain is inevitable, but misery is optional. Wow. So pain is inevitable, but misery is optional. You're going to go through some things, but to be miserable, right, that's an option that you're going to have to choose. We cannot avoid pain, but we can avoid joy. Right. God has given us such immense freedom that he will allow us to be as miserable as we want to be.
Yeah. Kind of like what we just talked about, you know, just reiterating that, you know, that it is our choice, you know, to, if we want to stay in that place or if we want to obtain joy and walk in that, you know, because we're called to walk in joy. But, you know, our joy is not circumstantial, so it doesn't matter, you know, kind of like what we said where you just quoted about pain. You know, we're all going to face difficulties. We're all going to, you know, face situations that are painful in our life. But you know what? Our circumstances don't determine our joy. And so joy is much deeper than just surface level. Joy is eternal. You know, it's not just circumstantial.
Well, and, you know, growing up, I always heard that people would differentiate between happiness and joy. And it was a long time before I realized that really there's not so much difference there. Because I don't know people that are joyful that aren't happy. Yeah. You know, and I mean, you can split hairs and there can be semantics, but, you know, God created us to be happy. Yeah. He wants happiness for us. And I know some people who spend their entire lives practicing being unhappy. Yeah.
Yeah. You encounter people all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they get more mileage about people feeling sorry for them. Yeah. And it's like that's fuel for them to, I don't know. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah. So if I can, I would like to share just a little snippet. I'd actually like to read just a little from my journal, you know, because, you know, just of my own personal journey of just battling infertility and walking through that. And so I know a lot of people don't know that, you know, and my story is probably different than those that are viewing. But, you know, it's real pain and it's things that I've walked through. So can I share a little bit? Okay. So I'm just going to read
this is out of your journal.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. So it says, this was an eternal pain that you cannot see. So throughout the past 9 years, my husband Trent and I have tried to start a family. We've prayed, we've waited, we've trusted God for almost a decade to bring forth our promise. Well, in February of 2020, so this year, we actually got pregnant only to realize shortly after that we would miscarry the baby. We were both devastated, and I felt that my promise was within reach before I could grasp it. It was gone. Not only was the waiting enduring enough, but now it seems so far away. So what do we do in the waiting and how do we respond? Because both are equally important. What I know is that Jesus is present even in our pain, and there is purpose to be found in the things that we walk through. He doesn't waste anything. Not one tear is forgotten. And I know that my story and the things that I walk through are not just about me, but they're so much bigger than me, but about those that I'll be able to reach. Wow. God is faithful. His promise is true. The delivery may look different than what I was expecting. And we may face disappointments and walk through pain, but we don't have to remain in that place.
Wow. That's so good, though.
Almost done. No, he holds us close. He holds us close even in suffering, but calls us to our feet to rise. Yet it's up to us to respond. There's great comfort in knowing Jesus, and because of his love, I know that as I'm anchored in him, I won't be drifted to and fro when troubles arise because joy is my portion. So I just wanted to share a little bit, you know, because people see me and they think that, you know, I'm just so joyful and all that. And, you know, that's true. I am. But God has had to do a work in my own heart, you know, and I could have, you know, just wallowed in despair and disappointment, or I could allow the Lord just to heal my heart, you know, and say that, you know, things may come, disappointments may come my way, but I don't have to remain in that place. I choose joy.
You know, I remember that February when you called Delisa and I and told us that you were expecting. And so we were doing a happy dance and we were so excited. And then we got the news that you had miscarried. And we felt that,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I come into the office, though,
Yes.
and I see Trent. I go in Trent's office, and so we're talking, and I asked about you, and he said you were at home.
Yeah.
And you spent a few days at home.
Yes.
And I'm bringing this up because you just don't snap your fingers and you're happy.
Right. Yeah.
It's not that happiness happiness and sadness can coexist. Mm-hmm. People don't always think that because you were at home processing the justice of God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you're going there and you're reflecting and you're pulling all the faithfulness to God into your now.
Yeah. Yes.
Trying to resuscitate your happiness.
Yes.
Can you go there a second with me? What were those 3 days like, or a few days that you just hibernated at home?
Yeah, so it was a lot of, just questioning, why is this happening to us? What's going on? And it was in those moments where just, you just are completely real with the Lord, and you're just honest before Him. And it's as if like, I don't understand. I don't always have to understand to trust, and I was just reflecting on just my life and just everything that God has pulled me from and delivered me from, and just His faithfulness in my life. And that's kind of like what you said. That's what I was drawing on. Mm-hmm. And I could still, even in the pain, I remember His goodness. He's still good, regardless of what's going on, regardless of what I'm facing. He's still good. And I was able to pull through because I know who He is. Yeah. I know who He is. And when we know who He is and we know that He loves us and we know that He has good for us, then it's easy just to trust. It's easy just to, just walk in joy and allow Him just to give us peace. And
well, in our circle too, in how we do life and how we do faith, we value the prophetic. Mm-hmm. We believe that God gives us His word, which is wholly prophetic, His written word, the Bible. But then we also know that He delivers words to us from the Holy Spirit. And when you get prophetic words about the fruit that's going to come from your womb, and then something like this goes on, then you have questions. So how do you juggle happiness and disappointment with God?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I know.
That's not in our notes.
Right, yeah, we're going off topic. But that's okay. Yeah. So, I think just kind of like what I just said a while ago, it's just knowing who God is and knowing that, I'm human too, so there's going to be times where I'm upset and I'm disappointed. But at the same time, I know God's goodness and His faithfulness and His truth over my life. And, just kind of like what you said about, prophetic words that have been spoken over me and just the things that I have yet to see, but I know that there's a promise to come. And so I just remain hopeful. And it's really Jesus. We can be joyful in difficulties because of Jesus, and I couldn't do it without Him.
What the authentic way that you embraced faith when you got saved, that's a life jacket. Mm-hmm. That's the life preserver that people throw out to the person that's drowning. And some people struggle with that. Yeah. And so we want to give some strategies today about how to own your happiness, because what we want to communicate the most today is that happiness is a choice, and that if you're not happy right now, you're at a place of your own choosing.
Right. Yeah.
All right. It's not that you don't come into sad moments but there's ways to bring yourself to a happy place, even in the midst of chaos, because some people's problem or season of trouble goes on for a while. So pain is inevitable, but misery is optional.
Yeah, that's so good.
If we go away with anything, when Tim Hansel says that, pain is inevitable, but misery is optional, then we need to investigate that misery is optional part.
Right.
How can I break out of my misery?
Yes.
So the first step, the first strategy is let go of any strategies that promise happiness but don't deliver.
Yeah.
You know, the book of Ecclesiastes, some people believe it was written by Solomon. It's not for sure that it was, but there's a teacher who's bringing us a lot of perspective about life. And he experienced most of the paths that we take. He searching for happiness, money, prestige, knowledge. And what he found is that each one of those paths led to emptiness and a life of meaningless pursuits. You know, we need money, we need knowledge, but if you're counting on these things for happiness, then you just need to give up. They don't lead to happiness. So I kind of thought maybe we could talk about some failed strategies to getting happiness. What are some of those things?
Yeah, so, okay, we're going to back up real quick to the 90s. So do you remember in the 90s when there was a surge of all things smiley face? And like it was just be happy, you know, you would see it everywhere. I mean, I had smiley face earrings. And I remember this shirt, and it was this huge smiley face, and at the bottom it said, be happy. You know, because the truth is everybody wants to be happy. People want real happiness in their lives.
Right.
You know, and so, but those failed strategies are where we run into that is we look for happiness, kind of like what you said, in the things that are fleeting, you know, and just like money. It's a great thing, you know, to have money. We need money, but to place our dependency upon that, you know, would leave us, you know, feeling void. You could look to relationships to give you happiness, people to make you happy, and put that expectation on people to make you happy. But what happens when they disappoint you?
Yeah, expectations.
You know? Right. Yeah. And so, you know, there's so many things that we search for happiness in.
Material things.
Yeah, material things.
You know?
So
I think, too, we hear about that. People know, money doesn't buy happiness. But, well, you know, it brings some great moments of relief and some moments of happiness for sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have staying power.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Material things. Okay, well, if I just could get this around me, if I had this, if I had a different living conditions.
Right.
Not just a bigger home, but different living conditions, I would be. But, you know, right now, you do not have different living conditions.
Right. Yeah.
You are where you are.
Right.
So how can you be happy where you're at? How can you be happy right in your own skin?
Yeah.
Some people, if I could control my world, I would be happy.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
Yeah. Right.
And the people that are fighting for control are miserable because that's a stressful life.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. And it would just leave you empty, you know, and it would just leave that void there that, you know, Jesus is our true source of joy. Yeah. And so that can only be filled by him. So,
you know, you mentioned relationships. Yeah. Some people think, you know, if I can find the right guy or if I can find the right woman, I'm tired of being alone.
Right.
You know, I'm tired of living life by myself.
Right.
And so they'll find the wrong partner. Mm-hmm. They'll compromise what they know. They'll settle.
Right.
And they'll try to convince themselves that, okay, I can bring this person to where I'm at.
Right.
You know, the statistics of that are just so low.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you end up, what you just said, being unhappy because expectations
because they can't, you know, meet my need, you know, and what I need to make me happy. You know, I thought that maybe they could, but they can't.
Isn't that a lot of pressure to put on a person?
It is, yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And so what happens whenever they don't, you know, measure up to our expectations, you know, and we're left feeling disappointed. Yeah. So, yeah.
I've seen marriages that have struggled and fallen apart, and when that happened, the spouse fell apart. But then I've seen disappointing relationships where the spouse remained strong. They were disappointed, but their intersection point of life wasn't that person, it was Jesus.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
so when your intersection point is Jesus, then if your career goes down the tubes, if your kids go up, if your finances collapse, if your marriage doesn't work out, you don't fall all apart because those things weren't the intersection point of your life.
Right.
It does not that it doesn't hurt.
Right. Yeah. But those things didn't hold us together. You know, they weren't the foundation of our lives. Jesus is.
Yeah.
So, or should be.
Here's the next thing.
Yeah.
Strategy for, so let go of the strategies that aren't working for you. Let go of those things. But here's the second thing, is develop gratitude.
Yeah. Be thankful. Yeah.
This is big. It said, Philippians 4, 6, and 7, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus.
Right. That's good.
Now, there's this thing in the world of psychology called positive psychology, and it's not some crazy charismatic doctrine thing. It's literally bringing a positive viewpoint to your worldview. And much of our happiness, researchers find, comes with how we view our past.
Yeah.
And as we look back on our personal history, the way we were parented, experiences in school, family life, if we look back on those with negativity, then life becomes very, harsh and dark.
Yeah.
But if we can look back on it with gratitude, then we have a happier perspective of life. How does that even work?
Yeah. I think too, like what you said, I think a lot of it too is our perspective and kind of where we're viewing that from. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of things in our past that maybe if we could go back, we would have done things differently. But we can look back on those things with gratitude, with thanksgiving, and say, look how far I've come. Look how far God's brought me. And we can see God's goodness from where we were to where we are now, know. And it is cultivating that heart of thanksgiving within us. And walking in thanksgiving and gratitude.
Yeah, but what if your background though is abuse?
Yeah.
What if your background is horrific in the way you were parented, or what happened as you grew up, and how do you balance that and bring happiness or find gratitude in that situation?
Yeah, that's a tough thing. Yeah, I think it is too, kind of like just finding the good things, because there's goodness in so many things, and it is our perspective too, and kind of what we're viewing and what we're pulling from, and so.
I had a guy that when I was pastoring at Magnolia, that he got married, beautiful bride, and they got pregnant. They were going to have a baby, and he came to me and he goes, Pastor Brent, he goes, I'm really freaking out about this kid. Because my dad was a horrible, horrible father. He said he cheated on my mom. He left us when we were young. We were abandoned. He goes, I don't know how to be a good dad. He goes, so the only thing I know to do is to do the opposite of what my dad did. So he goes, I'm grateful that I can have the wisdom to say, okay, I can parent because I know what not to do.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of good.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Yeah.
All right, so how can we develop gratitude? Do you have some keys for that?
Well, we can find ways to be thankful. We can start a journal, or think of things each day, remind ourselves, keep a journal of all things that you're thankful for. That's something simple that we could do.
So, at the end of the day, get you a notebook or something, a journal or something to write in, and write 3 things to be thankful for that day.
Right.
Gratitude. Because people want happiness.
Yeah.
People want to, but this takes work. It just doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, you have to put effort in it.
You have to put effort. So sometimes
absolutely.
you have to work to find gratitude.
Yes. So that's a start. You could start doing that.
I saw a thing that said, make a list of 100 things that you're grateful for. 100 things.
Yeah.
So I started writing down things that I was grateful for,
Yeah.
trying to get to 100.
Yeah. Did you go to 100?
You want to try?
We can try. Let's do it.
Okay, all right. I'm grateful it's raining and I'm on the inside.
I'm grateful that we have running water in the building.
I'm grateful that we have indoor toilets.
I'm grateful for my family.
Right? I'm grateful for my children.
Oh, I'm grateful for my dogs.
Trent is not
He
grateful.
is not. He is not grateful
for your dogs.
But I am.
That would not be on his list.
Right, yeah.
You know, I'm grateful for Bluebell ice cream.
I am grateful for Chick-fil-A.
I'm grateful for Whataburger.
I'm grateful for my health.
You know, I'm grateful for MercyGate Church.
Yes, I'm grateful for Target.
Really?
I love Target.
You know, okay, I can't believe I'm saying this.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for Marshalls.
Yes.
I like Marshalls.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love Marshalls.
Yeah.
I love Marshalls.
I'm grateful for my computer that I didn't have to write these notes out.
Absolutely. I'm grateful for the lights that we have here.
Yeah. I'm grateful for air conditioning.
Yes. I'm grateful for the Bible.
Yeah. I'm grateful for Eagle Point Golf Course.
I'm grateful for my city.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
love
where I live, my
Bellevue?
community.
Yeah, in your community. Yeah,
Well, I live in
good.
Baytown.
Yeah.
But-
I'm grateful for
Yeah.
our staff.
Yes. I'm grateful for my husband who's sitting out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
There's so many things that we just have to
we
find
could go
things. We can go on and on.
and on because
Yeah.
as you begin to list things that you're grateful for, even if they're something
Yeah.
as shallow as Bluebell ice cream, or I'm grateful for my recliner.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for Netflix. Whatever.
Right.
I'm great.
Oh,
You can
Netflix.
wherever you want to go. Doing that. Listen.
Yeah.
It's a proven fact that developing and recognizing ways to be ways to be grateful and develop gratitude changes the chemical nature and makeup of your body
Wow. Wow.
and helps
Yeah.
you find happiness.
Yeah.
So we'd encourage you just to begin to make a list of things you're grateful for, or at the end of the day, write down 3 things that you're grateful
Yeah.
for. There was another thing too that I saw. It's not in our notes, but I'd read it and at first I thought it was stupid.
What was it?
But the guy brought in the research about if you can start your day with laughter,
Yeah.
then it literally changes the course of your day. So he said, he says, so when you wake up in the morning, laugh for 7 seconds.
Yeah.
And so I thought, Lindsey, how ridiculous that just laughing for no reason. But he goes, well, find something to laugh at. Find something pleasant.
Right.
And so I sat there and intentionally I laughed for 7 seconds.
Did you? Yeah. How did you feel after that?
Stupid. No, I actually.
Do you ever laugh at yourself?
I felt lighter.
Yeah.
I felt good. But just starting your day with laughter or a
Yes.
smile,
Yes.
then that sets
Makes
the
you feel
course
good.
of your day.
Yes,
I have a little
absolutely.
thing of Joy, my granddaughter, that now I may watch every day. My oldest
sweet.
daughter's birthday was yesterday, and so they were all in Milwaukee celebrating
Yeah.
that. And I showed it to you.
Yes.
And so Joy is at the table, and she's dancing, and it's so cute.
It's
I look
precious.
at that and I laugh. So if I started my day every day
Yeah.
just looking at something that would then that brings a different mood to my day.
Absolutely.
Instead of the
Yeah.
first thing that hits my mind
Yeah.
is negativity.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Laughter is such a powerful thing. It
Yeah.
just makes us feel good, So, yeah, I love that. And, kind of like we were talking about just walking in Thanksgiving and gratitude, I think about all that's going on in our world right now.
Not a happy time.
Yeah, and there's so much that's going on. I hear about people losing their jobs. I hear about, people, loved ones being, getting ill and all sorts of things. But, even in the midst of all of that, we can still, this is such a great tool that we can, implement, that we can still find things to be thankful for, that I may have lost my job, but you know what? I have my family and I have a roof over my head and I know that God's going to provide, that God is my provider. And so just looking at it, from a different perspective and having that heart of thanksgiving, really, it changes us.
Literally because of what we're living in and walking in right now, I've had to block watching 24/7 news.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simply because of how it makes me feel.
Sure.
I've had to find a way to get accurate news sources from other places.
Yeah.
And because you have to protect your happiness.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
You can do things, fear wants to grab onto you.
Absolutely.
And so, anyway, we can
That's
go
good.
with that.
Yeah.
Hey, number 3, plan and perform acts of kindness.
Yes.
Matthew 22, 37 and 40 says, Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. So, really, before you can love your neighbor, you're going to have to love yourself. That's what this is.
Yes, that's so good. I was going to talk about that. I was just thinking about that. Sometimes we have a hard time loving other people because maybe we fully don't love ourselves, And so, when we can believe what God says over us and we can allow his love to just take root in our hearts. And when we look in the mirror and we see the person looking back at us and we can fully love that person, then loving others just comes naturally.
I remember when you gave your life to Jesus, and there was another girl in our church named Sharman.
Yes.
Remember Sharman?
Yes, my friend.
And you guys came into my office, and you saw a homeless guy, underneath the bridge, and it wrecked your life. And so you go, we want to start a homeless outreach, and we want to bring water and goodie bags to the guys under the bridge.
Yes.
And so y'all already set, man. You and Sharman, these 2 beautiful young ladies, are just going to walk into under the bridge. And I went, no.
Absolutely not.
You remember that?
Yes.
I went, no.
Yeah.
Get some guys to go with you, and we can make this happen. But the first thing that hit you when you got saved is, I need to do acts of kindness.
Yes. Yeah. Put that love into action. Yeah. And there's so many ways that we can spread kindness. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can spread kindness. And right now, more than ever, our world needs to see that, kindness and love, and as Christians, as followers of Jesus, what an opportunity for us to do that right now.
There's a professor of psychology at University of California named Sonia Limborski. And with her students, she gave them an assignment to do random intentional acts of kindness, to do 5 a week over the course of 6 weeks. So that would be 35 total acts of kindness. Awesome. And they were told to choose acts of kindness that met 2 criteria. The act benefited another person, and the act required them to give something away. For example, their time, their energy, their food, or some personal resource. So, and I thought, okay, well, for us right now, as we're doing this, what are things you could do to do random acts of kindness so it produces happiness for you?
Yeah, because it makes you feel good when you're able to just bless other people and show kindness, spread kindness, it makes you feel good. You think that you're doing something for them, and you are, but it does something to you and to your heart.
What are some things that you can think of?
So some things, it can be as simple as sharing, a smile at someone, speaking kind words to people. It could look like carrying someone's groceries. It could look like paying for the person behind you in the Starbucks line. I've had that happen to me, and that blessed me. It can look like so many different things that you can do to show kindness and show people that you care.
I was at Guan Joe's the other day, a few weeks ago, by myself, and I hate eating by myself. But I was sitting by myself, I was eating, and I asked the waitress for my check, and she looks at me, she goes, somebody got your meal.
Yeah.
So immediately I'm going,
who was it?
I'm looking around thinking, who did that? Because I didn't recognize anybody in there. And that's happened a lot, but Delisa and I do that. We'll look at somebody and go, come here, and we want to buy their meal.
Yeah.
So there's wonderful, wonderful things like that.
Absolutely.
The 4th thing is, if you want to be happy and have a release of joy, forgive somebody right now. Forgive somebody now. Matthew 5:43 and 44 says this, and listen to it. This is the words of Jesus. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. In fact, he goes on to say, if you want to be forgiven, you have to forgive. If you do not forgive people their sins against you, my Father will not forgive you your sins. That's the word of God.
Yes.
That's heavy.
That is. Yeah. And that's so, just loving, blessing your enemies and praying for those who persecute you, that's so foreign, to the world, but as people of the kingdom, as Jesus lovers, Jesus followers, that's how we're to operate. We're to operate in forgiveness and walk in forgiveness. And it is possible. It may be difficult, it may be hard, but it is possible for us to do that, to walk in forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgiveness sets you free.
Yes. Yes.
It sets you free. And so that people that have hurt you in your past or even in your present, they're not allowed to hurt you every day.
Yeah.
When you forgive.
Right. Yeah. And, forgiveness doesn't excuse what has happened to you either, but it's just saying I'm not holding them responsible anymore, and I'm responsible for my response.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you say right before that?
That it's not keeping them responsible anymore.
Yeah.
And then as a result, I'm responsible for my response.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because we often think, unforgiveness, it just keeps us in the prison, and a lot of times it hinders what God wants to do in our own lives because we're holding on to unforgiveness. But true freedom, if we want true freedom to walk in that, we have to forgive.
If you could act out every fantasy of vengeance that you had towards, it still would not set you free.
Right.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Sets you free.
Yes.
Why forgive? Well, the Bible tells us that our receiving forgiveness is contingent on our personal decision to forgive someone. The second thing is we want to forgive emotionally because it blesses the person who harmed us. And if you want happiness and joy, when Jesus says pray for those that despitefully use you, love your enemies, that's because there's release and happiness and joy that comes from that. Yes. So the next thing, forgiving sets us free. Research shows a reduction of health risks for habitual forgivers relative to those who hold grudges.
Wow. Yeah. Sometimes people have a hard time forgiving because they think, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve forgiveness. But, then we have to look at our lives and we say, did we deserve to be forgiven? When Jesus came and he died on the cross for us, and so now we have to extend that forgiveness to other people because we have been forgiven. Now we get to extend it to others.
Okay, here's the fifth one.
Yeah.
Develop your network of friends. Sometimes you need to redevelop your network of friends because your friends might be a part of the problem that you're not happy.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
It kind of reminds me of, people will, I'm trying to think of how it was worded. It was so good though. You remember how people make you feel. You may not remember what they say, but you remember how they make you feel. And I was having a conversation with someone just this week, and I was telling her, we didn't know each other at the time, but now we're really good friends. But I was just telling her just of what an impact that she made when I first met her. That she didn't know me, but she came up to me and she just loved me, and I could just feel the love pouring from her, and just, she made me feel just cared for. And I left that evening when I met her. And I was like, I just couldn't get her off my mind. I said, who is this lady? I just love her so much. She's so precious, and so it does. It's true that how people make us feel, it affects us, and so I know for me, I try to be more intentional, of, loving people and showing people that I appreciate them and just adding value to them.
And if your network of friends are grumblers and complainers and negative, and those are the people that are pouring into your life, guess what you're going to be?
Yeah.
And that might not be all that profound, but it's probably the most real thing that we've said today. it makes a difference who you allow in your life. If I let the Lindseys have the most access in my life, I'm going to be a happier person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the last thing. Make God the central focus of your life. Make him the center of your life. Not necessarily make him number one in your life. If he's number one in your life, he can be prioritized and he can fall to number 2 and 3 and 4. But if he's the center of your life, then all your decisions and everything flow out of that.
Yes.
So I wanted to list some reasons, practical reasons why Christians are happy. People that put God at the center are happy. So it's right here. Christianity guards against crime, infidelity, and other self-defeating behaviors.
That's good.
Yeah. The second thing is Christianity teaches charity, hard work, moderation, and other things that are happiness building. And the last thing is Christianity provides social support and a community of friends. But what's the problem I have sometimes, though, Lindsey, is that I know a lot of Christians that are grumpy.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder,
What's going on?
Are they saved?
Yeah, kind of what we just talked about, it is our choice, to choose joy. And so why wouldn't we? Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything to close out for us?
Well, I think I'm good.
All right.
Unless you do. I'll let you wrap it up.
Well, there's a number of things that you can do to start your happiness journey. You can say, today I can complain because of the weather is rainy, or I can be thankful that the grass is getting watered for free.
Yeah. Or you can say, today I can feel sad that I don't have more money, or I can be glad that my finances encourage me to plan purchases wisely and guide me away from waste.
Today I can grumble about my health, or I can rejoice that I'm alive.
You could say, today I can lament over all that my parents didn't give me when I was growing up, or I can feel grateful that they have allowed me to be born.
Today I can cry because roses have thorns, or I can rejoice and be glad because thorns have roses.
You could say, today I can mourn my lack of friends, or I can excitedly embark upon a request to discover new relationships.
Today I can whine because I have to go to work, or I can rejoice because I have a job.
Yes.
Today
I can murmur because I have to do all the housework, or I can appreciate that I have a place to call home.
There's a lot of reasons to be happy.
Yes.
And you can find it, you can tap into it.
Yes.
Hey, listen, we love you. We just pray that as you're beginning to move forward and write that new chapter in your life, that you intentionally find reasons to rejoice and be happy. And Lindsey, I'm so grateful that you're in my life. You're a source of happiness and joy.
Thank you so much. Likewise, I'm happy that you're in my life too. Thank you for having me.
We are so glad that you're with us as well. God bless you. Choose to be happy. We love you. God bless.